If you want to be a true hero, you gotta get fired up. Let's go. Alright, I come with a simple message today. Go check out Fire Force. Don't sleep on this show. I don't understand how there somehow was a ton of people saying, pass, and just dropping this show. And to be honest, it affected how I went about it, and I avoided the show because I was like, I don't want to get into another generic shonen. I want to watch something that's relatively unique, and it had a cool premise, so I was kind of bummed. I should have just watched it regardless, but I guess with the amount of time I've had, I just didn't get around to it. But as of right now, I have now caught up with the first 2 seasons and hopefully a 3rd season and probably final season based on where the manga is currently. Will be announced at least by the time, who knows, this video's out. I wish. But yeah, it's weird because I can see the gripes people had with it that made it not as enjoyable, and it had a little bit of cringe involved, and I'll be honest, I didn't like those parts either, but it's not enough to ruin the show. The way people said some of this stuff to be like, it's pretty meh, or like some of these like fan servicey sections are bad. Yeah, they are, but it's not like even an average bad where it's like 5 out of 10. I would say this show is like a 7 or 8 easily out of 10. And yeah, I'm kind of bummed I waited so long to check it out, but at the same time I got all of it in one burst and just sat through one giant binge session. But I'll get into really the nitpicks of some of the stuff. I'll try to keep this relatively brief. The basic message is just go check the show out and make your opinion for yourself. I know I say that in most videos, so I don't know why I decided to not do that until now with this one. So yeah, so straight away, the animation on this show is it's good, it's enjoyable. There's not really much else to say about it. It's super enjoyable, but there is just there's a couple fight scenes that are just like, god dang, they just put the Sakuga, they put all the budget into like this one kick. And if you've seen the show, you know the scene. My god, it is so good. Damn. But outside of that, the actual premise, like superhero firefighters with it just like this ridiculousness of just like everybody kind of has the same power in a way, with a couple variants and like different generations on how they regard people, but everybody has like a unique feel to each character, to the point where I actually love most of the main cast. There are a couple weak characters that get delegated to just a basic trait, which is unfortunate, but they do get a little bit of growth as the show goes on, so they're not just totally dismissed. It's just, for a lot of bits, they are just that one character trait until a little later on. And some characters get multiple like focus in-ons that you think are a side character, but then they come back again and get even more fleshed out character development. And I really love that. The character design, the blue suit, I mean, I didn't come super close, but this is still pretty badass, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was looking for any excuse to throw this on, but just, I love the design. Everybody wears the same uniform, and most of the time with stuff where everybody wears a uniform, everyone kind of looks relatively the same, but they all stand out. You know each character when they're on screen, and none really blend together, and I love that. From there, the music and soundtrack of this, so good. I am the absolute sucker for music. This show could suck, and if the music was good, which it is, and the show doesn't suck, it's just boosted by that. Jesus Christ. They have like different variants for like the main theme and other themes in the show that either get sped up, slowed down, remixed in ways to make it just freshened up, so you're not hearing the same theme over and over again. But even when it does play the same themes, you're like, damn, let's go. You get fired up. It's so like just adrenaline inducing, and just the fights are so much fun. There's so much creativity, and just like, I mean, it felt like the animators had fun just kind of bringing these characters to life. And as far as soundtracks go, all the outros and intros are pretty good overall, but for the first season's ending with Veil, just yeah, nothing was beating that. That set the bar like through the stratosphere. So Jesus Christ, I like that got added to a playlist immediately. It is an absolute banger. I also really enjoyed how this show kind of took like the typical shonen action of just like punching each other until like someone wins, but outsmarting them at the same time. And then on top of that has like the philosophical questions and the questioning religion type stuff where it gets like super deep. It has both of those without either of them really feeling like they get repetitive or mundane. And I really appreciate that, because you have some shows where it gets like, it just makes you think too much to the point where it's like, well, this is just pretentious, and like spells some stuff out, but it doesn't just write it out like, here you go, this is bad guy because he do not like good things. Like, you know what shows I'm talking about when you think of that kind of premise, where it's just like either super convoluted just for the sake of making it seem like super brainy, or just dumbed down to the point where it's like, all right, like, who is this really for? It's just two people punching each other at the end of it. And that mix meets up here perfectly. I'm gonna be honest with you, as far as shonens go that are currently airing right now, this one reminded me of how I felt watching Naruto for the first time. And however you may stand on Naruto, like, you gotta admit it at least has some like decency and attraction to being an entertaining show. But my god, it had like that sense of wonder and like groundedness with abilities, and people kind of like matching each other and one-upping to power creep each other just slow enough that it doesn't feel like we're just like punching each other and like using baby attacks, and then like the next season we're fighting God. As soon as the shonen gets to that point where everybody's like levitating in the air and just like super mega beams and everything, that's where they lose me. I'm not a fan of it. I'll still watch it. There is an enjoyment to be had, but like, that's my least favorite part when it gets to that phase. Hence pretty much the entire final arc of Naruto, but I digress. Arguably one of my favorite things about this action shonen is, in comparison to the early to late 2000s and long running, maybe even current ones that I'm not currently caught up with, shonen action shows, is there's really no filler in this. That is amazing. You just get straight plot to the point where it's like, even when they drizzle in a little bit of stuff that might feel like filler, I didn't notice until afterwards, and I thought about it. I'm like, wait, was that filler? Wow, okay. Like, they give you so much stuff to like focus on that by the time it actually gets to fillery stuff, you don't mind it. It's kind of like, oh, this is kind of nice. It's a nice little reprieve. Now, as far as the gripes go, okay, there is one character in this series which it literally feels like they exist for fan service, and that is Tamaki. While she is likable to an extent, especially later on into the series, she is 100% just used for just like, oh no, I fell and my boobs are out. And like, there's full fights that are won because she's naked. It's just it's annoying because it's not used very well, and it feels like you're in the middle of like a super actiony fight and she's just getting like accidentally naked, and it takes away from the flow of a battle where it's like, this is super cool. And it's like the one time I'm actually kind of disappointed to see fan service. It is so bizarre, and I definitely think that's one of the most off-putting parts of this series, but not enough reason to just skip out on it, because even later on they make a plot point out of it that's actually kind of good. It's kind of cheesy and feels unnecessary, but it was enjoyable to the point of somebody like training against being susceptible to titties, essentially the training arc we're all trying to go through, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's just it's a little gripe, and it does happen enough that you will notice it. But really, that's the biggest like fault of the show. Like, for sure, for me at least. Otherwise, my other only real big gripe that I have anything with is this is kind of a weird, like, you get a weird feeling from this show with the sense of danger, because a lot of the time you're like, everybody's gonna be fine, like nobody can die, and it's just like people just punching each other until they either pass out or that's the end of it, to the point where like, oh, you think somebody could die, but you're like, nah, they're probably fine. This doesn't really, like, it hasn't started raining and the main character's theme hasn't started playing really slowly, so like there's nothing really to worry about. But then you have other parts of this series where it's just an absolute massacre of side characters and like somewhat introduced characters that you're attached to but not like super attached to, so you're still like, oh shit, like I was just getting attached to them and they did it so fast that I didn't think I needed to worry yet. But it's just like, pick a side, like either be like, all right, someone's probably gonna bite it in every like 5 or 6 episodes or so, or everybody's gonna be fine, the power of friendship prevails. It literally just sits on that. And then there's times where they just straight up kill off a character and they like, it hangs on it where you're like, oh my god, they died. And then it does the shit like an episode later where it's like, no, I'm fine. Seriously, that's how they treat it. It's so lackluster. It's like, no, you should have committed to that character dying. While it was super sad for some of these, like genuinely, there's one part where I was actually bummed out, like, oh, I didn't really like that character a ton, but like I'm still sad because like the way they went out was like super like hardcore and like inspirational, where it's like, remember me, and then they're like, oh shit, I'm good. Like, so yeah, really those two things, really awkward placement for fan service and the non-commitment to life or death situations sometimes. Because this show, I mean, it feels like very lighthearted and like super over the top action, but there's like decapitation sometimes in this, so it's like you got to figure out your tones, man. Like it's very weird. It's just a little off-putting. That's all I have to say about that. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about this show for today. What else exists out there that's really good but people just tend to sleep on? I mean, I feel like there's a ton of stuff like that, and as I discover it, it's really refreshing to find that stuff, but unless somebody really recommends certain shows, I might not see them until much later without that recommendation. So if there's anything you know of, comment it down below and I'll check it out at some point. Granted, I have any time to get through anything. Jesus Christ. This video, I apologize. I'm like a week behind. It's just work got crazy, and then I got whew, my god, I'm all worked up. It's freaking hot in this thing. We got Florida heat going on. You think it's like, oh, it's still kind of cool out, but it's like, nah, 80 degrees. Yup. And this isn't helping, but I couldn't make a video about Fire Force and not just go full send on it. Jesus Christ. Follow me on Twitter, because that's that's dead. I appreciate it if you do that. I'll wait. I'll put it down below. It's just my name for this YouTube channel. I don't. It's not confusing. I'll post more if I get more followers, but I still post sometimes on it to make it a little entertaining. Subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know why you wouldn't. If you're watching this and you're at the end of this video, just do it. Just do it. Join the deodorant gang. It's much appreciated. And now we know you smell good if someone sees, oh, you're subscribed to Florida Animan? Oh, ladies be flocking up. They're like, oh my god, did you know? Voice crack in the middle of it. Like this video if you did enjoy it. Share it around with anybody you think would also enjoy it. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!